empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to Scoop World Order Signing Day Spectacular. A great class signed by Ohio State and Ryan Day today. A lot of big misses at the end that put a little damper on it, but we still have some fantastic guys. Brandon Ennis, Luke Montgomery. Some guys are going to be real excited about once you see them in the scarlet and gray. And honestly, with the transfer portal, who cares anymore? Because some of these guys will be coming and going over the next 2-3 years, and we're going to be getting some guys coming into the program regardless. So if your heart's broken today, don't worry about it. There's going to be guys coming. It's a different world, man. It's not the old signing day where you'd have these guys for at least 3 years. These guys can be in and out, and that goes for everybody. So you look at some of these big classes like A&M last year, guys were taken off. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about some of the guys that we love from the class, break the class down, go position by position, and maybe see where we can patch up some of the spots that whiffed today. With that being said, bring in my good friend Nevadabuck, but we are first always thankful and grateful for you guys. We have been on Buckeye Scoop like werewolves all day, nonstop. I was up early. Mateo D's broke, Whitfall and Crystal Baldwin. We knew that was a wrap. Chad Simmons went right after that with the RPM prediction. So rough start, but again, the talent we brought in is fantastic. And I think you can't penalize some of these kids like Brandon Ennis and Tate that sign early or they commit early. You know, if those guys signed on signing day, you guys would be all excited right now. So you got to treat it like that. And never forget, we got some big time ballers coming to Columbus. That being said, I'm going to bring in my good friend Nevadabuck, who is not in the green room for once. And I actually have him ready to rock. Nevada, how are you tonight?
I'm doing better than I think 99% of the Buckeye fans are doing today. So, yeah, this has been a weird day. People are really, I don't know what I can't really put my finger on it. You know, obviously started with the Michigan loss, but people have just been looking for reasons to be despondent, and today's just not one of them. This is not the end of days. Things are not, you're driving off the cliff, and I'm in a completely different mood than a lot of folks are. So I guess that makes me an outlier.
Yeah, I love the class. I mean, I think Brandon Ennis is one of the best receiving commitments we've ever gotten. I think Luke Montgomery can play tackle early, maybe day one in his career. Again, Luke can pass block. To be an early player in college football, you have to pass block. Period. End. And he's got the feet to do it. You know, I'd throw him out there at right tackle next year. Have him compete for the job. I mean, you need a guy that can hold that edge. No matter who the quarterback is, you need pass blocking tackles. Nevada, talk about your highlights, some of the players you like, as the day went on. It looked it wasn't great. We've had some slow, this reminded me of some of the Jim Tressel classes where we're like, oh, we're in it, we're in the final two, and then we're always like number two. But who do you like in this class? What are your positives? Again, it's a top 3 class. So, for some people, the ice cream's too cold. I'm excited about these kids because you never know who's going to be the next Josh Myers. Could Josh Padilla be the next Josh Myers, be an NFL center as a rookie? You never know. But who do you like in this class?
Well, first of all, we got to talk about philosophically, Ohio State has never really done well on signing day or at the close. It's as long as I've been following Ohio State recruiting. And you have to ask yourself, why is it? Is it some cosmic accident? Is it, what is it? What is that reason? And it's because generally those kids that kind of wait till the end in general are going to probably break away from Ohio State. There have obviously been some notable exceptions, the JT Tumaloa thing, the Terrell Pryor thing, which was for some different issues. We've had Von Bell on signing day and some other things. But in general, 99% of the kids that kind of break this late are going to go somewhere else, because it's just not the thing that Ohio State does. And, I think as an Ohio State fan, you have to understand that, accept that, embrace it, understand that it's kind of baked into the cake as in terms of what Ohio State's doing right now. And I talked to one of my best sources today about Ohio State in the class, and he said something that was really, really, intelligent, really kind of resonated with me. He's like, look, we used to laugh at Tressel for talking about we only want kids that want to be Buckeyes. But in this age of NIL, these kids almost have to self-select, because if the kid's only about NIL money, it's probably not a good match for Ohio State. The kids that Ohio State are looking for, the matches for Ohio State, are the elite kids the kids that that project out well in college, the kids that are project out to be top players, but that also that NIL is not the top priority for them. That NFL development is the top priority for them. Those are the kids that Ohio State's going to be in the game for, and that's why, like you said, you talk about it. The top of the class, the Tate, the Ennis, the Montgomery, the kids that could play anywhere. 5-star types of kids. Those are kids that have, in Ohio State's opinions, their priorities in the right order. Whether that be because of their family situation or their upbringing or just whatever they're focused on, those are the kids that Ohio State's going to go after. And the kids that aren't about that, we're not going to get. And we just have to understand that. We have to accept that. We have to embrace that. So when I look at the roster, I look at it, what's the average star ranking? Because comparing classes of 17 to classes of 27 is just it's just different. They have more people. This average star ranking is the third-ranked star ranking class in the country. Even if you take out the wide receivers, it's top 10. That's good enough to keep you in the game. TCU doesn't have a single player on their roster that we recruited. Michigan barely touches us in recruiting, and they've beaten us 2 years in a row. So, this is more than sufficient talent to get us where we need to get to. I'm thrilled with the class, with guys that we missed on. We've got some holes to fill, but like you said, you've got the transfer portal, you've got easy ways to slot and play, and you've got a loaded roster. So I'm not in despair. I'm not even close to in despair, and I think things have worked out just about as well as they possibly could for Ohio State, given the circumstances.
I agree. And again, the thing I look at is, there's going to be, in my mind, if you go back and regrade a class, like if you go back and regrade Texas A&M's class from 1 year ago, what kind of grade would you give it today after they had, a handful of 10, 12, 15 guys hop in the portal and 5-star guys that took off after 1 year? I mean, that's going to happen for the rest of the time. Like, there's going to be guys from this recruiting class that'll jump in the portal next year. So it's part of the new wave of college football. It's part of the new wave of shopping your services around. And again, I just think that you never know who's going to be the Troy Smith, the Heisman winner, who's the last offer of the class. You never know who's going to be the 3-star guy that turns into Josh Byers. Josh Byers is a 4-star, but he's going to be a big extension guy in the NFL. He's playing great for the Packers. Started as a center as a rookie, left a year early. You just don't know, like that. Like with the O-line, I like those guys. I think that you got some tough kids in there. You got a project kid in there who might end up being as good as any of them. He's 6'6". Not all of these kids are Caden Proctor's ready to go guys, but I mean, Caden Proctor might get down to Alabama and get whipped and not be any good anyways. Because that's just, I've seen Shontrell Henderson, who was probably the most heralded offensive lineman ever, in the last 20 years. He didn't do anything in college. He was terrible. He went to USC on signing day. He went to Southern California and transferred out immediately. They went on probation, went to Miami, never did anything with the Hurricanes. So, I mean, people it's a really weird thing because, people feel like they win, they lose, like it's life and death. And then when you look back at it and how stupid some of it is, again, in just my class alone, Prescott Burgess goes to Michigan. Oh my God, how are we ever going to survive without getting Prescott Burgess? How many times did Prescott Burgess beat us when he started at Ohio State? Or at Michigan, 0. Played against him every year, beat him every year. Louis Irizarry, who was a good friend of mine, a guy that was in my recruiting class, shows up, freaky, maybe the most talented guy that we've ever had at the position. Didn't catch a single ball at Ohio State. A guy that was a 5-star, number 1 tight end in the country, flipped to the Miami Hurricanes after the Kellen Winslow game. We win the game, but Kellen Winslow gets, that huge game, 10 catches, whatever he had, and Lewis flips to them because of their tight end usage. Then he flips back to Ohio State. And again, when he flipped, we should have just let him go, but he was so talented, we let him come back. And, he got arrested and was gone. Never, he dropped one pass. Justin Zwick, I'll never forget, 0-3, it's blowout time. We're playing Northwestern. Zwick's in the game. He's the backup quarterback. Lewis is in. He runs a go out. And Justin actually threw a great ball. It would have been his first touchdown, and Lewis drops it. The greatest tight end recruit in Ohio State history drops it. So, again, it's hard. You try to talk people off the ledge about, look, it's not like this hasn't happened before. It's not like this is an old hat when these guys stink or these guys they don't pan out, and then there's guys that you're not excited about on signing day that are kind of the late offer guys or the lower tier guys that end up really being good. Like Cardale Jones won us a national title. Cardale was, a guy that we sent to military academy so he could get some spacing from Braxton. And nobody was excited about Cardale or Mike Thomas, who we also sent to military school and ends up being, an NFL Hall of Famer. So, I always laugh and be like, oh my God, we didn't get tackles, or we didn't get this, or we didn't get that. And I'm like, look, illusion. There's no big illusion in this life than offensive line depth, because these guys hit the portal. They're not starting by year 2. They're going to be looking in the portal, and they're going to go to Pitt or Akron or Colorado and go start elsewhere. So let's take a breath. We'll be okay. The kid from Rhode Island went to Oregon, a tackle with a bad body. Looks like he's never lifted a weight in his life, and he's an Oregon Duck. I think we'll survive. I think, honestly, the funniest thing is if that kid would have committed here, I think that Buckeye Nation would have hated him, because I think he stinks, and I watched his film. So, but again, we didn't get him. So it's, oh my God, how are we ever going to survive not getting a guy that started at Rhode Island last year, which pretty much any of our guys that are on the bench could have done. So, Nevada, that was long-winded. Do you have any rebuttal to anything that I said?
Well, there's a reason why I spend less time, and I said this on the board, man, I spend less time covering recruiting than anything else that we do, because recruiting, I just realized a long time ago that, with before the portal even, that you never know who's going to turn out. But with the portal, you never know who's even going to be here. So I'd rather spend my time, energy, effort sourcing inside information about the team, about expansion, about the Big Ten, about college football, about the playoff, about anything else, because I just think recruiting is so fluid that it's just not. I'm not saying it's not worth the time, because recruiting is certainly important, but I think recruiting is different now. I think recruiting is about recruiting players from other teams, recruiting kids out of the portal. Probably more so. It's certainly every bit as much as recruiting high school kids, but maybe even more so. And so I think as a fan, I understand that you've got to get you got to have talent in the field. But man, I go back to what I talked about earlier. I look at 2 of the 4 teams in the playoff this year, other than Ohio State, and Michigan barely doesn't even scratch the surface where we are from a recruiting standpoint, and TCU isn't even on the radar, and that's half the college football playoff. So as an Ohio State fan, man, take inventory of the good. We've got plenty of talent. Things are there. Look, we're 2 games away from one of the greatest stories in Ohio State history. This signing day class, far from being a disaster. I saw somebody put up some stupid graphic about, signing day losers, Ohio State. And it's like, why? What? Because so if Tate and Ennis had waited to the last minute and signed today, we're the winners on signing day. But because they committed a long time ago and they just signed with no drama, now we're the signing day losers. It's just like, what a stupid thing to think about. I'm like, man, I didn't think I could get any dumber for having read that, but then I read that and then I immediately felt stupider. But anyway, but I digress.
I completely agree. And on the background, I got some innocent Tate for you guys to check out. Just some of their highlight films. They're kind of mixed together. This is obviously American Heritage, so that's Ennis catching a bomb. This is his film from last year. But I just wanted to let you guys know, I think this receiver class is as good as we've ever signed. I think that the tight end that we signed is as good of a tight end as I've seen. Jelani Thurman's a guy that everyone was worried about him flipping to Auburn. He ends up sticking here. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's a nasty player. I'll put his film on in a second. Nasty blocker. He's a D end, plays both ways. Physical defensive ends are my favorite type of blocking tight ends, because they know how to go upfield and put their hand on a guy's throat and choke him out. But no, I think that there's a good mix. Can things be better? Sure. Things can always be better. We could have gotten Caden Proctor. We could have gotten Caleb Downs. We could have gotten whoever. But, with the beauty of the portal, I think that you can always – everything stings a lot less when your roster is as fluid as it can be now. So, when you have openings – because, again – that was like the big thing. We lose Dylan Raiola and the whole world is ending. And how are we going to survive? We lost Dylan Raiola. Well, it's like, how do we know who the quarterback's going to be in 2014? How do we know Ryan Day didn't go after Drake May from Carolina, who's the number 1 pick in the draft next year? Him or Kayla Williams are going to be the top 2 guys for the Heisman next year. if I'm Ryan Day, I'm coaching for my job next year because it's a big year for Ryan next year. You see how this Georgia game goes, but next year the schedule's much harder. 6 home games. You got at Notre Dame, at Wisconsin, at Michigan. If you can go get Drake May and say, look, hey, I'm going to throw it to Marvin and Emeka and hand it to Trey Henderson, the O line will be fine. Because again, the O line will be fine. Like you put Donnie Jackson, the left tackle. He was all Big Ten as a true sophomore, which is almost impossible to do. That's how good he is. You got to figure out what you're going to do with the rest of the spots. But we get enough guys that you can find 5 guys that can play and be effective. And with our skill guys, you're never going to have A+ across the board. Very rarely. But our skill guys are A++. When you look at our running back and our 2 receivers, like that's as good as it'll get. Then you throw in if Ennis or Take you give you anything as the 3rd wide receiver, Julian Fleming's back. The running back room, we didn't sign a running back for the first time ever, I think. But we still have another signing day to go. But you look at that room and you got Chip, you got Trey. I mean, you got some dudes in there. I mean, and I don't know who's going to transfer, who's going to stick, whatever it is. But I mean, we've got plenty of depth. I mean, you just got to hold on to those guys through next season, which is again with the portal and spring ball. You're never really relaxed anymore. That's just kind of how it is. Nevada, what after the signing class has concluded, this early signing, what issues or what spots do we need to shore up? Michigan went out and they signed 2 of Indiana's captains, which again, it's Indiana football, but they got a backup quarterback in Jack Tuttle. They get a really good tight end. They got 3 offensive linemen. Should we adopt more of a Michigan type model in terms of being aggressive in the portal?
Well, I think you have to, but look, it's 2 things you're looking for in the portal kids. You're looking for kids that can play and can play at a higher level than anybody that you have on your roster. And 2, you're looking at kids that are going to come in and not upset your culture, that are coming for the right reasons. And if you can't find both those things, like just to sign a kid, like you said, like the Rhode Island kid, and we offered him, so they must have thought highly enough to offer him. But how hard did they push for him? I know you were not high on him. I didn't really have an opinion or an educated opinion. I was trust Ohio State, but you've got to find kids that can play, and that's really the trick on all this stuff with the portal. But I think you've got to be more aggressive in terms of the portal. And I think I'm not as concerned about the offensive line. I saw Josh Fryer play right tackle this year in a real game against real people, and I thought he played every bit as good as DeJuan Jones. And that may be blasphemous, and maybe people go, Nevada, what a crazy take. How could he? DeJuan's a monster. He's 6'8" and 380 pounds. I thought Fryer played just as well. I couldn't tell the difference. Maybe there was one, maybe there wasn't. I don't know. Do I think Donnie Jackson can play left tackle? Sure, I think he can. Can Montgomery play day one? Sure. Is Whipper back? Maybe. What about Matt Jones? Who knows? I mean, we'll have guys. We'll have guys, and every year I hear about the Friday. If there's somebody that's you selectively can go out and get, I would go out and get it. But I wouldn't just do it just to get anybody. But I'd be hitting the portal hard, looking, scanning to see what guys you're going to get. If you can get them, bring them in. But like you talk about running back room, like we talk about the running back room's stacked. And if they leave Chip there, and if Evan Pryor comes back from anywhere near from where he was at the spring game, we're fine. And quarterback, look, the kid from South Dakota, I encourage everybody to go back and watch his tape, because I'm telling you, he is a player. If your attributes for a quarterback are you like kids that are big, tough, smart, competitive, and are multiple sport all-stars, nationally ranked all-stars, he checks every single box. And I don't know if he's going to turn out to be Joe Burrow or if he's going to turn out to be Scott McMullen, but I like the kid, and I like the kids that we have. So no, I think we filled a lot of our needs. Obviously, running back is kind of a head scratcher. Tony's, for me, is Tony Alford on the hot seat? I've been following recruiting for 25 years. I don't remember ever not having a running back in a class. Maybe it's happened. Maybe I forgot it. I could have been drunk during that year, but I don't remember ever not having a running back in the class. And for people that talk about, well, we couldn't have known that Fletcher was going to go for an NIL, and we all knew. Everybody knew. Everybody knew that there was going to be an NIL deal. So, in my opinion, we've got to get a running back in the class. Do you go? There's still another signing day. Do you go inside the state of Ohio? Wouldn't bother me at all. Wouldn't surprise me at all for them to do that. Or maybe you see somebody pop late. You just never know. So, but I think running back's the only position that I think that you've got to go on. Maybe running back, add an offensive lineman, maybe a linebacker. But all in all, I think we filled a lot of boxes, and we got some top end men. And you win college football games with your top end, and we certainly got the top end in this class.
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to restock that receiver room, which turns over every 3 years because these guys are going pro. This is one of my favorite plays of all the film I watched, and I've watched 1,000 hours of film. This is Jelani Thurman. This is our new tight end. Little play action screen where he fakes pass blocking, releases. I mean, you just, this is just, it's just fun to watch. You run a tunnel screen to your tight end. He doesn't take it to the house, but he goes and gets 12, but it's just, he's just so fluid. And the kid's a nasty kid. I'm going to let it just kind of run while I'm talking about it. But I agree, Nevada. Like, you get the high-end skill guys. The thing about Ryan Day, why I don't care about losing Dylan Raiola or losing really any quarterback, is we're always going to have a good quarterback as long as Ryan Day is there. We've had the all Big Ten quarterback for 10 straight years, that's probably the craziest thing I've ever seen in all Big Ten voting. So from Braxton to JT to 10 straight years, literally all Big Ten. Justin, Dwayne, it's been like a phenomenal run. So whoever gets thrown into this system, again, if I'm Joe transfer portal next year, and and I'm looking at who I get to throw to, you're telling me I get to throw to JJ Smith, Brandon Innes, and Carnell Tate. As when they're sophomores and juniors or sophomores and freshmen or whatever. It's like, it's an easy sell. And this kid, Jelani Thurman, who I absolutely love. Like, I don't know. And like these quarterbacks, they all want to transfer. I mean, Emory Jones, I think, just transferred to Cincinnati. I mean, he's on his like fourth school. So these quarterbacks go 3-4 schools now because they have to play. And again, when you're a quarterback, it doesn't matter where you play at. You can go to Wyoming and you can turn into Josh Allen, be top 10 pick. You can be Trey Lance, play North Dakota State, be a top 3 pick. So you have to just go play somewhere. So what's the most attractive job in the entire country right now? If you're a quarterback and you want to go start and be a superstar, it's Ohio State. You're going to be at the Heisman ceremony. Yeah, you're going to be all Big Ten. You're going to be thrown to guys that make your job really easy because you've got guys like Marvin and Emeka. That's the best duo of receivers in the country next year, easily. And then you got if Cade comes back, then you throw Jelani, Innes. Start working Innes things. I think Innes and Tate are going to be taking some jobs next year. I think those guys are going to be moving up the depth chart and passing up some of these guys from this past recruiting class who we haven't heard much about. But yeah, I don't sweat it. Nevada, like compared to yesteryear, like the old recruiting days, the mid 2000s, the Tressel years, like what level of concern did you used to have when we missed on kids versus like today with the portal?
Well, I mean, again, it just used to be way more important. I mean, before you had one shot at getting the kids, it was signing day. You had to sign them. You had to sweat those faxes coming in. Hope that Jarrell Price didn't fax the fax in upside down or backwards and not get him. And it was all about that. And now it's completely changed. So as a fan, the time to start worrying about Ohio State is when you see that we don't have enough talent on the field. But that's not an issue right now. I mean, Ohio State is heading into the playoff as the number 4 seed. We're stacked at just about every position on the field. Look, we're going to have to find a quarterback next year after C.J. Stroud. So we've got Devin Brown. I mean, people forget about Devin Brown. Devin Brown, I can't remember they might have had him as the number 1 quarterback in the country. They might have had him as the number 1 player in the country
On 3.
And on 3. I mean, that's a guy that's a guy that's buried in our quarterback room that people aren't really talking about. So that's why am I worried about Dylan Raiola, the 2024 quarterback, or when I've got the number 1 quarterback in the country, in our backup spot? No, I'm not worried about it at all. So I think for Ohio State right now, it's just, it's a time for calm reflection. And, Ryan Day said something that, he usually goes in these press conferences and he usually says just a bunch of nonsense. But I thought today there was actually a lot of truth in it. And he was talking about how he kind of got an education about how when things start going bad, you learn a lot about a lot of people. And I think it's so true. And, I've always said it in business. I think it's true as being a fan of Ohio State. It's like when things start getting a little rough, you find out who's in the boat, who's not in the boat, who's the first one to start, throwing people overboard. And, look, if I thought things were bad at Ohio State, none of these guys are kin to me. So I wouldn't be sitting there going, oh, I'm going to carry the water for Ohio State or say everything's fine. I don't care. Ryan Day is nothing to me, but we're in good shape. We're in good shape on the field. We're in good shape off the field. We're in good shape in the classroom. We're in good shape in the training room. We've got a great plan going up for this Georgia game. I'm talking to some really, really smart guys today about the team, about what's going on, about embracing this underdog role, about what's happening. And things are just not, they're just not bad. Things are just not bad. And, it's nice to hear that Kirk is well hydrated as well. So we get to listen to him. We get to listen to him drink that thing.
If you're yelling me about swearing, then I at least have to drink water. I gotta be able to do something that annoys you.
Yeah, I think you gotta super chat if you want Kirk to turn off his mic when he's drinking water. It's like, let's do it.
If you want me to chug the water, you can super chat that too.
Oh dear God,
big chug.
Make it stop. Make it stop. So do we have any questions out there? I know we got a lot of people out there watching, like 189 viewers right now. Is anybody have any questions about this class or anything?
And we appreciate you guys. I'm gonna scroll through and see what we got. But it's like I always go back to what I don't know if it was Bank or you or somebody said Vegas right now has us as the number 2 favorite to win the national title. Number 2 behind Georgia, not 4. We're not the 4 seed in Vegas. It says we're number 2. So again, the people that are jumping off the boat, man, it's like as long as they never have to be in a foxhole, some of y'all, like holy cow. And I'm not talking about you viewers, but it's not that bad, man. Vegas thinks we're the second best team in the country. Now, are we? We're gonna find out. I got 2 weeks to find out, but if I'm Georgia, I don't think I want to see. I mean, maybe they want to see us first, but I mean, if you said, hey, who do you want to play in the national title game? I don't think Georgia's saying, oh, I want to play Ohio State. They'd probably say, well, I'll take TCU. Then I'll take Michigan. Then I'll take Isaac. They already played Michigan last year and they beat the brakes off them. So it's like, we've got better skill guys than they do. Our problem is we played the worst game of the year at the worst time. We had guys that played completely uncharacteristically poor. Our safeties played poor. We had dumb penalties. Didn't execute on a fake punt. So it's like, it was kind of a Murphy's Law game where everything dumb that we could do, we did. And Michigan hit their shots. They hit they hit those plays that were designed to kind of grind the clock out, and they hit them for 80 yards because we were out of our gaps. So, it happens. But I mean, that's just the rules of football. All right, here's a question. Do we have enough safeties, Nevada?
Well, I mean, look, I think so. I think, the good news about safety is there's a lot of different guys that could play safety, and safety means a lot of different things right now. I mean, my question is like a guy like Sonny Styles. Is Sonny Styles a safety? Is he a linebacker? Where does a guy like that fit on things? CJ Hicks. Where does a guy like that fit on the thing? For me, I think it's kind of an interchangeable thing. So I think we have enough. I think we've got enough guys that are kind of flexible that kind of fill that hybrid role. And some of your corners can grow up and play safety as well. So I'm not as concerned about that.
Jaden Bonsu, has he signed? It looks like he hasn't signed yet. So he might be up for auction right now, which is fine.
Ohio State thinks they have that one under control. We'll see. They think they have the one under control. I'm not, like I said, I think I said this on the board, but I'm look, I never know who's going to turn out to be great. So as soon as I say this about Bonsu, he'll turn out to be
Sean Taylor. You're muted, Nevada. I'll carry this while you get unmuted. You might have to come back in. But I just don't get, if we lose or miss a kid, I just don't, I always look and see, be positive. Who did we get? Who can we develop? And now it's like, who can you get in the portal? It's kind of, because again, you got to look at like Ohio State kind of like it's a draft thing, because it's like if you don't get somebody in the NFL draft, there's always free agency, there's always cuts. All right, I'm getting Nevada back in here. Appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. All right. You back, Nevada?
I'm back.
All right, cool. Perfect. Yeah, we're talking about Bonsu and how you think that, he's not going to be the next Sean Taylor if we don't get him by some miracle.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, he might end up being an NFL Hall of Famer, but nothing about him has kind of screamed, unbelievable must get. But if we get him, fine. If we don't, Ohio State thinks they have this one back under control. A little bit of an NIL issue that they've kind of worked through. We'll see if it all gets handled. I think it's fine.
This is a great one. Troy V. This is great. Our O-line is the weirdest thing, Nevada. They can pass block, but they struggle with run blocking. I always heard run blocking was easier of the two. Do you want to answer this, or do you want me to answer this?
You're the former All-American offensive lineman. You can handle this one.
Well, so here's my thing, Troy, and you gotta remember, I played in the Jim Tressel offense, which was as creative as white rice or whatever you want to put as vanilla pudding. It was that exciting. But I think that the way our scheme is and the way that college football is now, where there's this read option element, and we talk about this ad nauseum, almost to the point where I get tired of saying the same things over and over again. A lot of our stretch stuff, we work to get a horizontal push. You see the guys kind of run sideways and try to get a crease somewhere. It's like the Denver Broncos scheme, it's a great scheme, very prolific in the NFL. A lot of great runners. Redskins ran it for a long time. Texans ran it for a long time. The problem is like you're not very physical when you do that. Everyone just kind of runs sideways and you try to get like a gap somewhere. With the power running game, which zone guys generally hate, there's a lot of double teams, pulling guards, coming off the ball, beating the tar out of people. It's kind of what Michigan does, honestly. They do a lot of that. And that's what we did with Trust, man. And it's like, the hard part is people, they don't like 2-yard runs and 3-yard runs, but you don't see like the physicality of the guys up front. Like when I used to get to double team a defensive tackle over and over and over again, that sucks. And it beats the tar out of those guys. And eventually, if you keep beating them down, they break. And then all of a sudden, Beanie Wells goes for 50 yards, or goes for 40 yards, or 30 yards, or whatever, or goes for 70 yards. And that's something that we don't do because we're just not as physical as I'd like us to be on the offensive line. I think we play high. I think that our guys need to be in 3-point stances more, especially when we're covered by a tight end. That's like one of my pet peeves in football is when, Paris Johnson or DeLon's in a 2-point. And I honestly think DeLon looks uncomfortable in a 3-point stance because he's so big. But we play high and we're not good with our hands. Like that's something that I watch this against Michigan, and I watch guys that, frankly, I can't swear. I'd say what I really think, but like I would have killed these guys because they're not very good. They're D tackles. Like when we played Michigan, they had Alan Branch, who weighed about 350 pounds, 6'7", monster, and we had to double team that guy. And I look at the guys that they're blocking now, and they're just not very good. But like when we don't play with great technique and we play too high, then they can get away with not being very good. And Michigan's guys play with better hand placement than ours do, and we don't refit our hands. So there's a lot there. And again, I'm not trying to get too into the weeds and have you guys glaze over with technical stuff, but I think our scheme isn't great. I think the fact that we never pull the ball with CJ Stroud. I know that CJ, we treat him like he's made out of porcelain, but he's fine. Like if Justin Fields and Jalen Hurts and those guys can run in the NFL, then CJ can run versus, Michigan or versus Georgia so that we can go win a national title. He'll survive, whatever. But, we do a lot of things where we make it look like we're reading, but we never actually read it. So, the defensive end never has to worry about the quarterback actually pulling the ball and running out the back door, so to speak. So that's supremely frustrating for me when I watch it because it's just bad scheme. And again, I have all the respect in the world for Kevin Wilson and Justin and those guys that do the run game. But, eventually, defensive coordinators, some of them are dumb, but they're not that dumb. Eventually, they're not going to honor the fact that the quarterback never pulls it. It's like the boy who cried wolf. But I think that, there's a lack of physicality in our double teams. And a lot of it comes with our technique, our pad level, our hand placement. Like there's a lot of little technical things you could clean up to make these guys better in the running game. And again, and the other thing is like Ryan Day just has to believe in the running game because he doesn't believe in the running game. Half the time he gets out of it, you have a bad half or a bad quarter or a bad drive, and it turns into chuck and duck mode where we throw it, 55 times and we get away from running it. And I think that that's probably the biggest mistake that he makes in the play calling is he always wants like the perfect play that works great and it's efficient and all that. But sometimes you got to go sledgehammer it a few times before you can soften the guys up and really start getting the big chunks of games. And plus that humps your defense out because it keeps them off the field and lets them get rested up. You got a rebuttal of that, Nevada? That was a long one. Apologize.
No, but I think you're right though. It's like those little jabs sometimes set other things up right there. And I don't think Ryan's always looking for kind of the haymaker, and he won't stay with the the pop. He won't stay with that. I mean, if he gets stopped on one drive, you can almost bet he ain't going back to it again the next time. Like he's going to start throwing, and as great a play caller as he is, as great an offensive mind as he is, that's every play caller's got a blind spot, and I think that's his blind spot is that he doesn't really fully embrace the power running game, and until he does, our running game will never be as efficient as it possibly can be. And hopefully he finds some religion about that. But frankly, against Georgia, maybe that's not the best strategy. Against Georgia, probably the best strategy is line your guys up, send them down the field, throw the ball, and try to get some big plays over the top, get some pass interference calls, stretch the field vertically that way. That maybe that's the right approach against Georgia. So we may not be seeing this again until next year.
I don't know if I want to go down the O-line was left in a bad place because I think I spent half my time on the message board explaining that, look, if I am Kirk Barton, offensive line coach, and you interview me and you say, look, this is what your room looks like. You have a top 10 pick at left tackle coming back. He'll be a preseason first team All-American. You have a 5-star true sophomore left guard coming back. You have probably the second best center in the Big Ten who probably can go early and be a mid-round draft pick coming back. You have a 5th-year guy and about 6 other guys that can compete at right guard. And then you have a right tackle who's 6'8", 350, or probably really 380, who's a projected first-team or second-team All-Big Ten guy and actually made first-team All-American on some teams and second-team All-American. That's the room you're walking into. And then you've got a bunch of guys that are competing for spots, and you already have a 5-star tackle committed to you. Would you take that room? And I would say in a heartbeat, and again, I can't swear, but in a heartbeat, I would take having Paris Johnson at left tackle, Donnie Jackson at left guard, Luke Whippler at center, Matt Jones and whoever else at right guard, and DeWan at right tackle. I mean, Paris and DeWan, that's the best tackle combo we've had since Pace and Stringer. So, and again, and the year prior, we had 2 tackles that made first team All-American. Like Thayer Mudford made first team All-American. He was playing a lot. He kicked down into guard because he's one of the greatest captains that's ever in Ohio State history. And Nick Petit-Frere, who started every game for the Tennessee Titans this year, and Thayer started games for the Raiders this year. So it's like you lose 2 guys that are starting in the NFL, and but the room is destitute and there's nothing. So it's like a wasteland. But I don't buy that. I mean, you should talk to an O-line coach. You should go to an O-line convention and say, look, this is the talent you're going to have. You're going to have these freak shows. You're going to have a left tackle that's that good. You're going to have that kind of talent. And guys will just, they die for that. But Nevada, what do you say? Again, because I don't want to go down this road again, but it's just like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. When people say, good.
Here's the thing. This is what people have to understand. For the 195 people listening, I'm going to give you a little bit of inside baseball on this, okay? Stud was not a source for anyone. And so all the guys on the beat hated him for that because he wasn't a source for anyone. He wouldn't talk to anybody. He's a grumpy guy. He wasn't one of my sources. I've never talked to him. He didn't talk to anybody, so they hate him. The guys that they like, the guys that are kind of the Teflon guys, the guys that don't even get criticized, even if they completely whiff on a recruiting class, those are the sources for the guys. That's why they love them. So if you can put 2 and 2 together in terms of who's talking to the media and who isn't, that's the reason. That's the reason. You've got stuff going out there. Stud was so grumpy, and everybody hated him because he wouldn't say anything. He was sure these other guys get a pass, but they completely blow it. It's like, those are the guys that are talking to the media. That's why they're out there spinning, carrying the water for him, going, oh, it's okay. It's no problem. Oh, Stud's still a meeting. No, it's because the other guys are sources for them. That's what's going on. So, but don't tell anybody. Of the 193 people listening right now, Do not tell anybody that. Don't tell anybody that Nevada just gave you the inside secrets on the stud hate. But there it is in a nutshell.
Oh, dude, it's absolutely crazy, man. I'm telling you, and again, it's like when players or coaches get beat down by the local Ohio State media, there's usually a guy in there that's feeding information, saying, "Hey, can you write this? Hey, can you say this? Hey, can you do this?" And that's how the narratives are formed that don't make any sense. Because again, you go to any line coach in the country and you say, "Look, this is going to be your starting five. I can't say that they're all going to be healthy and they're all going to make it through the season, but you're starting off with Paris Johnson at left tackle, 5-star. Donovan Jackson, 5-star. DeJuan Jones, lowly 3-star, who's probably going to be, a third or fourth round pick. Matt Jones, who knows? Whippler, mid-round pick. Every line coach in the universe is taking that. Georgia would take that. Alabama would take that line. That's a good line. So Paris Johnson would start at left tackle for any team in the entire country. Literally, he's that good. Donnie would start at left guard for probably 99.9% of the teams in the country. He was first team All Big Ten as a sophomore, as a true sophomore, first year starter. That's incredible. Luke Whippler, probably second, third teamish All Big Ten. It was a good year for centers in the conference, so that's a little tougher. Matt Jones, very serviceable, good player. We missed him when he was hurt against Michigan dramatically. And DeJuan made second team All Big Ten, second team All American, first team All American. It was kind of all over the board with DeJuan because he went as high as first team All American on some lists and first team All Big Ten. And, so again, that's not, you don't just fall into being a first team All American or All Big Ten. That's not just some miracle. So I don't know. I always roll my eyes because I'm just how dumb can you be to actually literally write that? Oh, the line sucks. Now, again, next year, you worry about next year. The thing I've learned and the thing that I don't care about at all is depth, because the thing about the portal is depth is an illusion. Tommy Brockermeyer, who is the number 2 player overall in the class and went to Bama last year, transferred out, never started a game for the Crimson Tide. So, it's just, guys are going to leave. Guys want to play. If a guy's not starting as a freshman or sophomore, he's going to hit the portal. We lost 2 good tackles to the portal. One went to Colorado, one went to Pittsburgh. The one that went to Pittsburgh started at Pittsburgh this year. He would have been our swing tackle. He would have been our backup guy. He's gone. So, again, I just, it is what it is. And again, you're not going to hit on guys. And honestly, the hardest part about recruiting offensive linemen is there's not really that many good ones that are in Ohio anymore. There's some good ones, but there's not the great monsters. Paris was an Ohio kid, but DeJuan's Indiana. Donnie Jackson is from Texas. Nick Petit-Frere is from Tampa. So you got to go more national to get these big monster O-linemen. And when you play Georgia and Bama, go look at their rosters. Go tell me where their guys are from. Where are their linemen from? Georgia, South Carolina, North Florida, Alabama, Louisiana. So it's none of them, they're not coming to Ohio to get offensive linemen so that they can go win the SEC, which it is what it is. And same with the D line. You're not seeing D tackles from Ohio going down to Georgia and Bama and starting. So, it's just part of the how stuff's regional, the population shift to the South. That's changed. There's just not as many Division I players in Ohio, which means there's not as many Division I high level players in Ohio. So that's why Ryan Day and his staff have to go so national now. This isn't like 2002 where you could literally you could get a class that could win a national title from just Ohio and then throw in Santonio Holmes and a couple other guys. So it's just the world's different now. Nevada, any rebuttal to that? Because it's just kind of the facts.
No, I just like you said, we've got 3 kids from Ohio. I mean, the irony is we have 3 kids from Ohio this year that I really like. So, as much as we want to go national for offensive linemen, I like the Ohio kids. I've always liked Ohio kids. I think we'll be fine. I actually think we got some guys in the room that are better than people think as well. And I think the line depth is going to be fine. I've been hearing about line depth for 20 years, and it's never been able to rear its head and really be an issue. So I think Ohio State will be fine on that. And we'll see. There might be some interesting things in the portal as well. That often there's another portal window that's opening up after the spring. So it's not over yet. These teams aren't not over, and recruiting and portal business is 365 days a year now. So as an Ohio State fan, keep your eyes open because you never know where things are going to be coming from.
Yeah, and when the portal, because again, like the portal opens up again after spring ball, so there are going to be guys rolling, like after spring ball. They don't like where they're at on the depth chart. They don't, guys leave Ohio State every year after spring ball. Last year, they were mortified of Evan Pryor getting into the portal. They were trying to do everything to keep him here because he really balled out in the spring game. So, I mean, that's kind of the problem with the spring game is like you have these kids and, like G. Scott had like 10 catches in the spring game. So I think they were trying to, keep him here, which again, it's all part of the game now. Like, hey, if kids disgruntled, let's feature them in the spring game and say, hey, look, that's how we're going to feature in the offense. You're going to get all these catches. You're going to run 2 tight ends. I don't know. My assessment of Justin Fry, this is a good one. So I think I've known Justin he's 1 year older than me, played at Indiana. He played in the Horseshoe in 06, beat the dog crap out of him, like 44-6. I don't think we played him in 05. We played him out there in 05. I didn't travel. I was hurt. 04, we beat him. But I think that he's done, let's just count the good. Okay. Paris Johnson, first team All-American left tackle. That's good. Luke Whippler, really good center, could go to the NFL easily. Donnie Jackson, first team All Big Ten, first year starter. Great. DeWant. So, I mean, I think that's really good work. He hung on to the 3 Ohio kids. We didn't get any of the national guys. Caden Proctor obviously flipped from Iowa to Alabama today. That, obviously you get a guy like that. That guy's a day one starter at left tackle. I think Justin's done a good job, but again, you got to get these guys ready to go against Michigan and whoever you see in the bowl game because we have better players than everybody we play except for Michigan. So it's not as hard to win against Indiana and Purdue and Michigan State, and I mean even Wisconsin was terrible this year. Notre Dame wasn't good this year. Notre Dame's defense was decent this year, but you really got to get the guys ready to go against Michigan. And I thought we did okay. But when you give up the amount of yardage we gave up and the number of points on defense and the rushing yards, like it's really hard to win when you give up, 45 points, I mean, unless you're playing Big 12 football. But we'll know a lot in 2 weeks again, because I could say anything right now. And those guys could say, we just beat Georgia. We dominated them up front. We're going to see the best front that we've seen probably since the Alabama team in 2014. So these guys got to eat their Wheaties because Jalen Carter is the number 1 guy on Mel Kiper's big board. He's their nose guard, or their 3 technique, excuse me. He's really good. But this Georgia front is very blockable. Like they're not anywhere near what they were last year. Last year, I thought they were significantly better because they had they had the big kid in the middle who was just an absolute terror. They had Trayvon Walker, the guy who went to Jacksonville number 1 overall. So the guy who's the number 1 guy on the big board last year was a rotational guy last year. He wasn't even a starter. So I don't know. I mean, Nevada, where do you rank this Georgia front? I think they're blockable. I've watched a lot of their film. I've watched their Oregon game probably 50 times. I watched the SEC championship against LSU. They're blockable. Now, could things go wrong if we get scared and we don't play well? Sure. If we don't tighten up our hands, I mean, it could get ugly. But this isn't last year's Georgia team. And they lost their best player on defense and their second best player on defense, Nolan Smith, their best pass rusher by far. He's out for the year with a knee. So, it just, I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Nevada?
Well, I just think in general, I think the if you watch the betting patterns on the game, it's a really weird thing right now. It's like 89% of the bets are on Georgia, and that line will not move off the 6.5. And that's a really weird thing. And that, as a gambler, that sets off all sorts of warning signals about, how Vegas views this game and what people are thinking. And I just think Ohio State has been a great dog, is great in a dog spot. I think Ohio State's got a great game plan going into this thing. And as you said, look, they lost Wyatt, the interior kid, that went to Green Bay in the first round last year. They obviously lost the number 1 overall pick. This Georgia defense it's nowhere near as good as it was last year. And I think offensively, they do a lot of nice things, but there's they don't have game breakers on this team. So this is a team that can be had, and they can certainly be had off a layoff. And that's one thing that I don't think people understand is coming off if you're playing a team week to week, it's generally you kind of get what you see and there. But when you're coming off a 30-day layoff or 35-day or 28-day or whatever it is, this is a completely different ballgame. This changes everything from predictable and following a pattern to almost like a coin flip when you've got teams of equal talent, because you're not sure who's going to fire well coming off the layoff, who's going to fire fresh, who's going to be coming out renewed. And so I'm really bullish about Ohio State's chances. Like I said, we talked about this before. I'm not sure if I'm there in terms of ready to pick them, predict them, say, hey, we're going to beat Georgia, we're going to do it. But to me, it's a pick 'em game. To me, it's a coin flip type of game, and I think Ohio State has got a chance because Georgia has lost so much talent over the last year. Really good team, but certainly a beatable team.
Yeah, and for me, my big thing is like, look, the last time Georgia was on the field against LSU in the SEC championship game, they gave up 500 yards in the air. 500 yards in the air. Like, that's hard to do on Madden football. 500 yards. So, I mean, to say that we can't throw, and people say, oh, it was garbage time. I was like, do you think Kirby Smart stopped coaching? No. And LSU had their backup quarterback in for half the time because the other guy got knocked out. So, again, it's kind of like when we were getting ready to play Alabama in 2014. I did a preview with Tim May and the Columbus Dispatch, and I talked about, here's the thing. The last time Alabama played, when they played Auburn, and this is like, before they won the SEC championship, they gave up like 250 yards on the ground to Auburn. Like, I mean, they beat Auburn and it was close, but Auburn was just dog walking them all over the field. Like, their O-line was killing their guys. And I was like, I think we can run on these guys because, Auburn had a good O-line, but it wasn't like, oh my God, look at that left tackle, look at that right tackle. They might have had one guy get drafted on that O-line, Reese Dismuke, their center, who's really good. I think he won the Remington Award, but he wasn't like a Pro Bowl or anything. He was a late round, 6th round type guy, really good player for college, and he was killing Alabama's guys. And I was like, that's really like almighty Alabama, because everybody sees the helmet, the jersey, and they get scared. But I look at the film, I look at the production. I don't get obsessed with like, oh my God, there's Nick Saban on the sideline, and there's the number on the side of the helmet. So there's no way we can compete against that. I just watch the players, and I mentally kind of say, okay, if that was Matt Jones, could he hang in there versus Jalen Carter? Probably not. Probably you gotta help him. Like, I mean, because again, if we don't help either guard versus Jalen Carter, that's impossibly stupid. I can't even tell. If we don't move the pocket, that is impossibly stupid. If we don't help the guys on the edges, that is really stupid. And there's ways to do that. It's not leave 3 tight ends into pass block. It's like, look, move the pocket, chip the guys, cut the guys. There's a lot of mechanisms you can do to help the O-line out if they have elite pass rushers. But the thing about this year's team, we have 2 really good pass blocking tackles. Like, I think between the 2 of them, I don't know if DeJuan gave up a sack all year, and Paris gave up 1 late in the Michigan game. So between the 2 tackles, they gave up 1 sack, which is incredible. So we've got good pass blockers out there. On the interior, Donnie's been hanging in there. He's been getting better. Luke's been a rock. And Matt, really for Matt, he's running with the ones right now. He feels good. But for me, it's how healthy is he? Because the last time we saw him against Maryland, he wasn't healthy and he was getting beat up a lot. And, I've played hurt. So, if your foot's numb and you're trying to pass block, it's hard. If you're in severe pain, it's hard. So credit to him for being a warrior, but you might have to help him, especially against Jalen Carter, because Jalen Carter is a different animal. We haven't seen a guy like him in 10 years. Like, I mean, I can't even remember the last defensive tackle we played that was as good as he is. So, again, that's the plan for me. I'm going to do the OHIO. We got an OHIO going on and everything. Appreciate you guys tuning in. What other questions do you guys have? Nevada, you got anything else on the bowl game?
No, like I said, I love the way the Ohio State's approaching the bowl game. I love their use all 4 downs, let it all hang out type of approach to this game. I think you're going to see a Ryan Day circa Clemson 2020 type of performance, and whether that's good enough, we'll find out. But it's not going to be because they're nervous or leaving it in the holster.
This is a great one. This is one of my favorite ones. This one's going to go right to you, Nevada. Keep hearing Michigan fans talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. leaving to USC. It's like they're trying to start some stupid rumor. Nevada, do you want to talk about that? Because you had one of the greatest troll jobs ever this week. But do you want to talk about that?
Marvin Harrison isn't going to USC. It's just silly. I mean, it is the silly season. We get stuff coming out there, and people start talking about stuff. And no, he's not going to USC. Marvin's. It's not even used. Like I said, just watch my Caleb Williams to Ohio State video on YouTube for our rebuttal to the Marvin Harrison to USC stuff. But no, he's not going to USC.
I mean, and that was a fantastic troll job because, again, you got to understand, like, we do this for a living. So when something like that comes out, we have to sit and answer that about 500 times from text messages, calls, on the message board on BuckeyeScoop.com about that. And it's like we have to waste half our day refuting the dumbest rumor maybe of all time. So the only thing we could think to do is fight fire with fire and come up with, like, what would be something that would be equally as unlikely. And we did it. So it was pretty fantastic. Do you I'm trying to see if there's anything else before we get so Nevada, give me one guy on offense, one guy on defense that needs to step up and play well in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl for the Bucs to win.
Well, you talked a little bit about, Matt Jones is going to have himself a game. He's really a key guy for Ohio State on the offensive line. Kind of you forget about those interior linemen, but he's really going to have to be a guy that's really a stalwart. And watching that matchup, if you can at least just get a stalemate, that's going to be good enough for Ohio State. And defensively, you're going to need somebody like JT Tumaloa or Jack Sawyer to come out and play like we thought that they could play. I mean, JT's had some good games for us. He had one great game. Otherworldly game against Penn State, but we need that kind of performance out of him. We need him to kind of take over the game. We need him to, make an impact. We need a strip sack for a touchdown, a deflected pass for a touchdown. We're going to need a big play out of the defense. It's going to have to come out of the defensive ends. And so I'm looking for either one of those two guys to come up, play big, play up to their 5-star ranking, and make a difference in the bowl game.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I think it's got to be Matt Jones. I think or Donnie, whoever's going against Jalen Carter, please help him. Please, and again, I'm not trying to act like he's whatever, but don't let my biggest pet peeve in football is don't let the best guy beat us without help. It's like, like when I watch the Patriots on Sunday and they're playing Devontae Adams, they double team him every single play. Misery. So he gets like 5 targets, gets like 3 catches for 30 yards or whatever. So he didn't get 10 for 195 yards and 2 touchdowns like he's been doing recently a lot. So they did a good job. Don't let the best guy beat you, and you can't let Jalen Carter win. I think God, I mean Dallin Hayden. We need a guy that can run the ball. We need to stick to the running game. We got to stick with it because again, when we played the Florida Gators and we didn't get it done, we ran the ball on them really well early in the game, and we went away from it. For whatever reason, we stopped running the ball. When we beat Alabama, we ran all over them. We broke some big plays, hit some home runs. Ezekiel wasn't a household name at that point. After that game, he was. I mean, Ezekiel didn't even make All Big Ten. I don't think he made second team All Big Ten that year. And then after that magical run versus Wisconsin and through the playoffs, he was a first team All American type back. So I think that you need one of the running backs to step up, and defensively, the pressure guys, man. We need to get Zach Harrison going. We need to get JT going. You got to get Stetson Bennett down. You can't let him be comfortable, and you got to handle these tight ends because their tight ends are what this is like the one team where the offense revolves around the tight ends. Brock Bowers is the best player on the offense by far. There's not a George Pickens this year. The backs are good. I don't think they're great. I don't think there's a Nick Chubb or a Todd Gurley, but they're really good. Georgia's always going to have good running backs. They have since the beginning of time. But I think we just got to get after them, and don't play scared, cut it loose. I love that we're underdogs. I love that no one's picking us. I love that everyone's been hating on us and crapping on us for the last, seems like a month. And, now it's a great opportunity for Ryan Day to close ranks, batten down the hatches, get rid of all the riffraff, fake fans and fake everybody else, and just go win. And when they win that one, just remember who was with you when it was hard, and forget all the people that jumped off the ship when it got tough. Because that's like kind of the only good thing that comes from losing at Ohio State is you get to see who's really with you and just who's kind of with you. And that's a big, big, big cleanser. It's a big difference. Like who still wears the gear proudly and who's kind of a fair weather fan. And I think those guys need to embrace it. They need to embrace going into, those guys are literally going to be going into heck. They're going to be Georgia, and I didn't swear again. I'm killing it tonight in Nevada, just so you know. But yeah, those guys are going into Georgia. It's going to be 70% Bulldogs in the building. It's going to be loud. You're going to hear the SEC chant. It's going to be nasty, and there's no better environment in the world to get you hyped up for it, because you can't go into a game like that and start slow. It's impossible. You can't. You're not going to be sleepy when you're getting booed and everybody around there hates you. We see it in the Horseshoe on a noon game where guys start slow and sleepy crowd, and we're playing Jacksonville State or some terrible team. And, but like when you're on the road at Atlanta, that big NFL stadium, beautiful facility, playing the Georgia Bulldogs, 70% Georgia fans, like those guys are going to be gassed up, ready to go. And I'm excited for them. I really am. Like, I would be chomping at the bit. It was like when we played LSU. When we played LSU, we started like a house. We were on fire, 10-0 at the end of the first quarter, and we weren't as good as they were. But we didn't have the horses they did. But we started fast because it was. That environment, it's impossible to not be ready to go and start fast. And this team is significantly more skilled than we were in 2007. Significantly, they weren't as good on defense as we were, but their skill level is far superior to what we had. So. Nevada, I'm going to wrap this up. Any closing shot or closing thoughts from you as we wrap up our signing day coverage? Appreciate all you guys on BuckeyeScoop.com. Give it to you real quick, Nevada.
I like the class. I like the class significantly better than it seems 99% of the people do. In my opinion, it's a top 5 class. Could it be better? Yeah, but we're not done yet. And so for Ohio State fans, take heart. Another great class in the books, and let's hit a couple things in the portal. Let's finish strong in the late signing period, and let's go beat Georgia.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, and I'm going to wrap this thing up. Again, appreciate all of you guys. Thank you guys. We touched 200. I know it was late. It's been a long signing day, tough signing day, up and down. But guys, you got to be excited about the guys we got. Showtime Ennis is one of the best receivers we've ever gotten. Jelani Thurman. We got some dogs in this class, so I'd be excited. Merry Christmas to you guys. I hope you guys have a great Christmas. Happy Hanukkah to anyone else who's in here. Any other holiday you guys celebrate, we appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, BuckeyeScoop.com is where we're at. Our board has been absolutely nuts today. Nonstop traffic, nonstop updates, nonstop craziness talking about this bowl game. So excited. If you guys need a last minute Christmas gift, BuckeyeScoop.com is for you. Again, for the amount of money versus the amount of time you spend on it, you'll laugh because it's just, you guys will use this more than Netflix, more than Hulu, more than Apple Music, because it's just something that people that I talk to, first thing they check when they get out of bed, last thing they look up before they go to bed. They check it all day at work, check it when they got 5 minutes to go eat lunch. So people are always checking this board to see what's going on with Ohio State football, and with the way football is now, it's never been more crazy. With the portal, recruiting, coaching changes, getting ready to win the national championship, everything is on the line. Everything's going crazy, and we need you guys on Buckeye Scoop. So if you truly are one of the biggest fans in the world for Ohio State football, we are for you. And if you know anybody that's like that, your mom, dad, son, daughter, grandpa, whoever, coworker, I'd love to have you guys. Appreciate you guys as always. You guys are the best. Again, thank you guys so much. We can't do this without you. You guys tuning in makes this show so fun. Thank you guys for the great questions as well. The questions really are awesome. So, we love you guys. Thank you guys so much. We're going to be on the message boards all night. getting ready for Christmas. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. You guys are the best. I hope you have a great rest of your night. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks. Beat Georgia.